Have you found yourself navigating a dark night of the soul? Are you craving a deeper connection with the divine feminine? Are you ready to integrate the balanced union of the masculine and feminine within? Then let's get started on the journey towards wholeness to reclaim your sovereign soul. My name is Cynthia Clark. Over the past several decades, I have undergone many dark nights of the soul. My healing journey has been a reclamation of my sovereign divinity. Whether you're just starting out on your self-healing journey or have been exploring techniques for many years, Discover Divinity offers an opportunity to uncover the new possibilities for discovering and reclaiming the innate wisdom within. It is time to discover the new possibilities. It is time to discover you. Are you ready to release the shame that's been holding you back? In today's episode of the Discover Divinity podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul, we are diving into reclaiming the body, healing shame, embracing pleasure, and integrating the divine feminine. Diana and I explore how your body is not just a vessel, but an antenna guiding you toward healing, joy, and alignment with your true self. Together, we'll uncover how embracing every part of your body, both the light and the dark, can bring you closer to personal empowerment and freedom. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Discover Divinity podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul, where we explore self-love, healing, and personal empowerment. I am your host, Cynthia Clark. This episode is part 2 of a transformative series. If you have not listened to part 1, A Path to Sovereign Sexuality, Pulling the Roots of Fear and Shame, I encourage you to check it out in the link below. I am excited to welcome my guest, Diana Nye, back to the podcast as we go deeper today, discussing the powerful relationship between body and soul and focusing on how shedding shame can help us step into true alignment. In this episode, we are exploring how our bodies serve as antennas, guiding us toward joy and authenticity while releasing societal pressures and embracing the divine feminine. We will also be sharing some helpful tools that play a powerful role in tuning into our bodies and releasing body shame and aligning with true love and adoration for the sacred vessels we inhabit to navigate the world. So, Diana, let's dive into the body and the valuable role that it plays in our deeper healing.
Thank you. I'm super excited for this part. It's all encompassing. There's all the layers are kind of playing out together all at once, all the time. But it's fun to separate things out. And the body is wildly such an important piece and tool to learn how to use, just like you would learn how to use a saw or a drill or even a computer. Our body's more like the high-tech type of tool, but it's actually one that actually assists us in our ascension process. And ascension, that word kind of has some weird feelings for me at least, as I've grown and moved down the path. That word often is used to separate ourselves from the body and to deny the body and to push it back down where it's supposed to be, type of a thing. But to me, the body is, and the integration of soul and body and mind is that true ascension process, that we cannot be denying the tool, and the most important tool that we have is that body.
I love that. That's great information.
The the emotions. So as we're working with the body and we're moving through, okay, what is this thing that we've been given? We've got, I think its biggest thing are the emotions. I mean, you cannot even go throughout the day without feeling stuff, without paying attention and responding to stuff, and all this stuff, whether it just be the driver in front of you, or the song that you're listening to, or how your partner or child or whoever addresses you that day. It's all just emotion, emotion, emotion. Past thought processes coming up. And as we, just like a radio, when we go into the old radios, okay, we'll go into the old radios, and you have to get that tune just right in order to pick up the signal and the certain station you're wanting. We can learn to pay attention to our body and shift that tune dial over into, okay, am I going to listen to my 6-year-old wounded self today? She's screaming at me today. What is she saying? And we're going to tune over into that. And then we're going to tune over, maybe later on that day into what our 13-year-old son might need, or all those different things. But we're picking up emotions, and the pathways I've chosen to focus on are definitely within the belief systems. Those things that we are programmed at little ages, such as, oh, you're a slow reader. Those types of things. Or, oh, you're shy. Have you ever heard those types of things?
Oh, yes.
You're shy, she's scared of this. She's scared of the dark. And, whatever it is. And as a child, you go, oh yeah, sure. Because your environment and your parents or your teachers or whoever are helping create that belief system within you. Let's see. When we go into those beliefs, we can then discern, is that something that's serving me anymore? As a child, we get stuff that does actually keep us safe, even if it's not like super healthy. It's stuff that does keep us safe for periods of time. And then as we move into adulthood, we can then pull into, okay, is this heart wall that I have from some abuse in my childhood, is it necessary anymore? And can we take it down?
Right. And I like, as you're speaking about this, it's really fascinating. The first thing that you said about the ego's influence on shame and self-abandonment, like this really does affect most of the sacred processes that we call ascension, because ascension can be a really beautiful thing, but because the ego has moved into that process, it has tainted it for us. And we do go through that process of ascension, moving upward, thinking, okay, I'm going up, I'm denying all of these passions, these parts of who I am. But then going through that ascension, like you said, is all about integrating all of who we are, embracing every part of ourselves. And that inner child that you're talking about, we so innately come with that ability to do that. It comes from the programming that you're speaking of, that all of the structures that then teach us that somehow there's fundamentally something wrong with us, because we naturally dive into that creative process, our emotions, our physical body, like those lower parts of the ascension ladder that we look at, right? We always think it's going up, but it's actually more of a circular pattern as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We've been in this more of like the toxic masculine frequencies, or some of the toxic feminine frequencies that have come from this structure of patriarchy. And in a previous episode, I go a little bit more into how those ego wounds and those aspects connect into why we do this. So, I mean, it's important to understand, okay, we've moved in and we've pushed into ego. that then kind of takes away the true beauty of ascension, which can be a really beautiful, beautiful process. And we're not leaving the body behind. We actually have to take that and encircle that into the processes and use the circle instead of a linear movement. And I hopefully that isn't too confusing the way that I'm talking about it, but we naturally come with that gift with our inner child, this part of us that is there when we're born on the planet to innately use all of those. It's typically the adults that have been wounded, the structures that use these shame-based philosophies that then deny who we are, and then we start to question that. And so it really connects into this emotional part of us. This body is the antenna that's picking up all of the garbage and the lies and the illusions that then make us disconnect from these sacred parts of our wholeness.
Yes. And if you go from like, there's lots of different interpretations of this, but say a Jacob's ladder, a more religious standpoint, a Jacob's ladder type process from the Bible, if you take away those, the bottom, is it ranks of the ladder? Is that what the steps are called? The ladder's this floating ladder that will fall down. It's not like you cannot have a ladder. And each step is vitally important. And when you move up here, you cannot then start to shame and deny what's down here or that process that took you up here. And so even if we say, okay, we're now up here at this, say, 6th or 7th or 8th chakra, whatever, some people get up into the 12s, whatever. But just like you said, to me, there's more of, it's a flow of energy where it's continually being recycled and pushed, both all within itself, and each movement in each area and the gifts that come with each is circulating itself, and then it's circulating the whole. Once you say you get into working with, say, the crown chakra, if you then start denying the root chakra, your crown will not work as well as it would if you embrace and still love that. And when we're talking about the divine feminine, so much of her works in those lower chakras. That's that wild feminine and the wild sexuality that, and you can take, lots of people interpret wild very differently, but wild is raw, it's untamed, it's uncontrolled, and it's not dangerous like a lot of people are kind of trained to think. We think wild lion, or whatever it is, a wolf. But it's more, I guess, as we're talking about inner child, children can also be called wild. And it can, again, be a negative term, but if we look at it as a positive thing, those children that are wild are powerful. And they are forces. And as our body, I feel like, yes, it can operate on all those different chakras, but our body is a lower vibrational kind of thing in and of itself, just like this world, which means to me, it does link into those lower chakras a lot more organically. And then our spirit can work with the higher chakras to kind of blend and merge those. But when we really sink into pleasure, like when you think of pleasure, what color do you think? My brain goes to those deep reds.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think of like the rich red, almost like a cranberry. Just sacred. Even almost kind of like a blood red. But also then more of like those bright reds. So
definitely, me too. I mean, it's that color is linked with passion. It's linked with pleasure, all those things, and just so happens to also be the color of the root chakra. So as we sink into those and start allowing, I mean, all the colors of fire are those lower chakras. I think that's super cool. And fire, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Diana. So with the chakras, the way that I'm seeing this picture, and maybe we can paint that for the listeners out there, I think of a rainbow. And if you look at a rainbow, can you imagine one of those colors missing? We can't go without all the colors of the rainbow, and this is how we get to understand how the chakras work together, these energy centers that play such a crucial role in this process. They each one, as they are communicating with each other, acts as a bridge, and that connects the physical body to the emotional body, to the mental body, to the spiritual body, to the energetic body. And it's a line of cohesion. And when we're truly in alignment with the centers, they work together to restore that balance, that healing, and wholeness that we all seek. And so I love that you're bringing this out, because this is such a critical piece of learning how to move out of false belief systems, false ideologies that have created us to believe that those fire energies are so dangerous and they're so bad. But if you look at nature as a whole, and the way that all of these parts of maybe the animal kingdom, nature, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, they all carry these intrinsic frequencies of nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon. And so just like the colors of the rainbow are just like the elements that we're all created of, and the nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon aspects, and even the ether, all work together as a union and as a pattern, and we can't take those out. That it just isn't a formula that works, and these structures and ideologies have tried to remove these out of our existence, and now we're waking up to that. We're waking up to that with the beautiful sacred integration of the divine feminine, and now we're coming back into this beautiful aspect of using the entire rainbow, the entire color palette. And this is a beautiful part of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, we're going into full spectrum light. That's what we want, right? The light of the sun, it's full spectrum.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful. And thank you for bringing in the rainbow aspect. Yes, so not denying those parts, realizing that those parts are equally as important as the other parts. So our body, we're gonna just kind of, for reference, we're gonna go, okay, our body's these lower parts, mainly because it's the shamed thing in spirituality or religion, culture, society. Even spirituality has aspects of shaming the body. So we're gonna go over and we're gonna say, these lower chakras are the body, just for today.
Yes. And maybe what we can do too, if it's okay with you, we'll just, for those listeners that are maybe just dabbling into chakras, we've probably got some listeners that are super into all the chakras that go above chakra 7, but we're just going to stay really basic today with the root chakra being at that root of your spine. Really, it's just in that area, and there's so many things that go with that, and in an episode I have more of a deep explanation of those chakras and some of those intrinsic pieces, but we'll just stick with the root chakra being at the base of your spine. And then you have that sacral chakra, which is more, and the root chakra is typically mirrored to the color red. The sacral chakra is more of an orange color, and that's more in between your root chakra and the belly button stomach area. So it's right in the center near those creative organs like your uterus, ovaries, the reproductive centers. And then you have that solar plexus, which is the yellow. And that's all about our personal power. And so you can tell that those three are these centers that are really putting us in the physical realm.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so getting into some of my stories and some of my experiences, brand new into my journey. Like this is actually before some of the stories I shared last time. I was sitting in my basement and I had been doing a lot of deep diving into the divine feminine and into religion, actually. And I was sitting there, just sitting next to my husband on the computer, and there's a mirror across the room in front of me, and I was just staring at myself. And all of a sudden, I felt this huge, like, ugh, yucky feeling come over me as I was looking at myself, which was not normal for me. I mean, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, but I did not generally look at myself like that. But the feeling that was encompassing within that was, this is not me. I'm not looking at me. I'm covered up by something. And my surface level knowledge went, oh, it's my makeup. It's my tanner. It's my hairspray. It's my all of these things that me as a person actually had always loved. But part of the closest people within my life are not fans of makeup in general, or even dramatic appearances like I love. So I got lectured a lot by different people in my upbringing on, you should, be like so-and-so. She's beautiful and she wears no makeup. You should be like so-and-so. She's beautiful and she just, her hair's just straight. There's nothing fancy to it. And they would praise these things while putting down my choice of appearance. And even though I had fought that a lot, there was still that, it had planted stuff in me. There were weeds for sure. So I'm staring at myself and I'm like, oh no. Finally, I guess you could seeing what they saw. This is not healthy, but seeing what they were seeing. And so I decided, and there was some time period there where I was being told through my religion that something big was going to happen in the next few weeks. And so I decided the story of Rachel and, Rebecca, I think it's Isaac's wife, Rebecca from the Bible, and some other women going up to the mountain to meet the Lord, and they had to take off all their jewelry. They had to come unadorned, basically. So that story popped into my head. And so I was like, oh no, I am not worthy to meet the Lord if I am adorned in these ways. So me, who would never go anywhere with no makeup on, decided that it was more important, that God was more important than my face and my pride. And so I did, this time period was about 3 weeks with no makeup. And I still showered, did my hair, put jewelry on because I couldn't, people didn't see me that way. It was just not something that I did. That was, although I disagree with the programming that went with that, it was very eye-opening as to core belief systems. I had to approach and to address the belief system that had been taught to me that blondes are not beautiful without makeup.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big belief.
It was a big one for me.
And there's so many belief systems when you're talking about this with appearance. And I'll share a story in a minute that goes with this, but there have been so many different things with society that then create, this is kind of like one of the roots that we're getting to that creates body shame. And
Yes.
so what a difficult thing. There's so many women out there that think there is no way I could ever go without my makeup, right? That's
Yes.
horrifying. And
Yep.
so tell us more. This is
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
So that was before I had gotten, permanent makeup with my eyebrows. And I have light eyebrows. I have light eyelashes and light eyebrows naturally. And that was like, oh, where did my face go? It was
Right?
very, very scary. And I could feel people look at me differently. Nobody thankfully said anything. And thankfully, church was canceled at that point in time, so I didn't have to go to
Oh,
church
nice.
like that. That was definitely a tender mercy because that was going to be very difficult for me. But just going on dates and everything. Anyway, so addressing the fear or the belief system of blondes are not beautiful without makeup, I had to shift that and say, I am beautiful with or without makeup. And literally, in order to get out the door, I had to tell myself that over and over and over again. I also had this extends because this jump started this thing where I was not bulimic or anorexic or anything like that, but my body was just never good enough. It was never as impressive as I wanted it to be. And looking back at pictures, I looked so dang good, like it's just that dysmorphia that goes on.
It really is. Like I
But
feel like for so many women though, like what you're saying, as many people as I've worked with personally and my own personal experience, as you're speaking, I'm like, wow, she could be speaking for me too. And I believe that we're opening our voices so that we can put a voice, we can put an awareness on the traumas that exist at the root of body shame. This is a
yes,
huge one because it does lead into those eating disorders, it is the body dysmorphia. Like I've had the exact same thing happen to where there were times in my life I was so body conscious and I look back at those pictures and like, whoa, like what was I thinking, right? Like what was I thinking? And
yeah,
it's really interesting to go through that, but I do believe that these ego wounds, these toxic structures that have so very much pushed it, drilled it, like to wear makeup. I remember looking, getting ready one time, and I remember, something my mother said that probably her mother said that her mother said, right? Is I was taking a little bit longer in front of the mirror to get ready. And I can't remember the exact words that she used, but it left this impression on me that spending time getting ready or putting makeup on my face was prideful. And so I learned that wearing makeup, spending time on myself was an act of pride. And so I always carried that little corner for myself when I got in front of the mirror that there was something bad or wrong about adorning myself or enjoying putting makeup on my face. And so I didn't actually wear makeup until, I mean, I might have put a little bit of like mascara on my eyes in high school, but I didn't even learn how to do my makeup until after I was married because I had such an impression that beautifying myself, making myself look pretty was bad. And so finally I learned how to wear makeup, which was nice and it was a gift. But then there's also that layer of makeup where we've learned in society that we have to appear a certain way. Our bodies have to look a certain way. We have to be trim and fit, and if we don't have the makeup on or the hair done, that there's something fundamentally wrong with us. And so that does create the eating disorders. It does create the dysmorphia. It creates the competition. It creates this hatred between women. And it's a like a deep root that goes into so many behavior patterns that are toxic. And so when you talk about your experience of going without makeup, for me, when I had to go through some really difficult times, it was just enough for me to get up and put some clothes on and put my hair in a bun for the day and have zero makeup on. That's what I had energy for. And so I did have to come face to face with myself in the mirror and start to look at me without the makeup on and identify that beauty of me, looking at myself fully raw, fully, with all the things that I could critically pick apart about myself that I learned from society were wrong or weren't okay or weren't enough. And when I did finally just show up and say, I choose to love all of you, like that was such a powerful part of transformation. And so as you're sharing your makeup fast and you're working through how this really opened up, all those things that you started to learn about, like releasing all the expectations of the world and coming back home to yourself, this is such a powerful tool. So if you've got a notepad handy for the listeners out there, I would write this down as tool number 1 for today's show, is using the makeup fast to really come into listening to some of those deeper messages that will come up for you. Because as you start to identify some of those belief systems, just like Diana and I have shared, about appearance, about those things that we learned about pride, write it down, because this is going to help you start to uproot body shame and helping you learn how to release that self-abandonment. So I love that you're sharing this, and would love for you to expand, what that really opened up for you.
Yes. So I did the makeup fast, and I decided to kind of we'll just call it a body fast too, but it was not fasting as in not eating. We'll say body image fast, world body image fast. So I've got, at the same time, and obviously the body part's going to go longer, but the makeup fast was, like you said, or like we talked about, can I be beautiful without makeup? Is it possible? Mm-hmm. And that was when I spent the most time looking in the mirror saying, I am beautiful. I don't need this to be beautiful. And we'll talk later about then what it transformed to. But what I had to do right then was, I don't need this to be beautiful. And then start to look at some of my softer features and the softness. Like, your coloring is darker than mine is. And generally, a darker coloring is more socially acceptable for the no makeup look. But mine was softer and lighter. And so I had to go, this is also good. Also good.
And when you share that, when you share that, like for someone who is darker, that's actually something that I never even knew or understood. And it's interesting in the makeup field, because I'm not super educated with makeup or different things like that. I never bought into that belief system or knew much about it. And for me, growing up, blondes were always the ones in society that were like, the blondes are the ones that the guys go for. The blondes are beautiful. And so isn't it interesting, you growing up as a blonde, me growing up as a brunette, that we've had two different experiences, and they're both false belief systems, like both of them. And so this is where we finally get to like debunk all the bullshit. Like, excuse my French, you're going to hear me say this more than once, because I feel like we're coming into such a huge awareness that there is so much garbage that we have to pull from that is just not truth. It's not the truth of who we are. And a blonde is beautiful, a brunette is beautiful, a redhead is beautiful. Like, all of these parts of who we are innately and intrinsically are beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, I love that. And then moving over into body, I decided that, you know what, my body is never good enough right now. Like my goals were non-negotiable. Like I was not good enough unless I legit had a six pack. I was never going to be good enough unless I had a six pack. I still don't have a six pack and my abs look great, like just whatever. But at the time it was like, I will never be impressive to my husband. I will never be impressive to anybody and ultimately, like really I will never be impressive to myself unless I have a six pack. So what I decided, what that revealed and what that time period revealed was, ooh, there's a core belief system that is not healthy. And I would not put that standard on anybody else. I would not tell my friend or my child that you are not beautiful unless or you are not good enough unless you have a six pack. And so I was starving myself, not to the point of anorexia, but I was, drinking I was actually probably physically very healthy because I was doing a lot of green smoothies and a lot of cleanses and stuff like that. But up here, And so what I started to do was, okay, and what I didn't know is how deep I was working with the divine feminine already. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to gain weight. And I'm going to learn to love myself in this heavier position. And what I found I put on probably 30-ish pounds. So not a crazy excessive, and I guess I don't mean to even shame that, but I let it get to a point where I was like, okay, I am comfortable at this point. And because something that's big for me is I need to still be able to move. I need to still be able to dance. I need to still be able to play with my children and do the physical labor that's demanded of me. So I let myself get to this point where I said, okay, this is good. This is fine. And ooh, look at the beautiful areas of my body that are now accentuated in ways that were not before. I had fuller breasts here. I did not have as full of breasts here. I had fuller hips here, less here. I had muscle definition here. I had curve definition here. And so I got to see this span of, look at how beautiful I can be in all of these different phases and stages. Mm-hmm. And that, I sat in that for probably 2 years until I felt that those belief systems were gone.
Wow.
I stayed in the amazing no makeup stage for about 3 weeks. But then the body love was a couple of years. And then when those were gone, I felt this flip in my brain that said, okay, Diana, now that these belief systems are gone, how do you want your body to look? And that was like, I felt this sexual creative energy just start to go like crazy. Those lower chakras were being activated. And I was like, ooh, I want this. I want this. I want this. And am I as lean as I was back, when this started? No. Do I love my body even like 50,000 times more? Absolutely. And the key difference is because I created my body.
Wow.
I did not have the expectations put by the world. Now, you could look at me and say, oh yeah, you look just like the way they want you to look. That doesn't matter. That's not what happened in here.
Yes.
So, and for some people that might be, you know what? I do want to be this plus size because I love all the things that come in with that. And that is absolutely fantastic. To me, the key is, are you choosing it?
Yes. Well, and
or are you shaming it?
Yes, that's the key. And when we look through society and when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, that time period was all about being stick thin, right? Like it was like almost emaciation because that was what was in. And so to have like a larger but was not acceptable. And I've been more blessed in that department, I suppose. I'm calling it a blessing, right? But growing up as a teenager, that part of my body, I was so self-conscious because I remember in grade school, a boy yelled from afar. I was wearing this cute little blue sweatsuit. And I remember it had a big, huge snowflake on it. I had gotten it for Christmas. I was walking out for recess. I was walking out for recess, and he shouted from across the playground, "You have a big butt." And I remember just thinking about that. And from that point on, like growing into my teenage years, it was always, a little bit heavier than what society was telling me I needed to be, this stick thin model that I was getting in teen magazine. Like we had magazines back there, and these models were so skinny. And for me, having that comparison did create those times in my life where I was super self-conscious. I was super concerned about what I was eating. And when we look at that time period and then jump 10 or 20 years later, when everyone started like wanting to go and get surgery to enhance their butt, to make them voluptuous and amazing, and their boobs, and I'm thinking we've totally done a flop in society. But then prior to the Twiggy phase, and I don't know how long ago that was, and the stick thin parts of the feminine role, you look back through ages of time where these beautiful, fully curved, voluptuous women that were well fed were deemed as the beauty of society. Like someone who was stick thin was basically just starved, and they weren't idolized. They weren't looked at as a beautiful woman. And so this is why coming into your own reclamation of who you are and what you choose to be, what you see as beautiful, is the most powerful part of reclaiming that divine feminine beauty within. So
okay,
beautiful.
so I have two stories to go with that.
Yes.
Okay, one really quick one. If you've seen the Disney movie Hercules, at the end, when Hercules is freeing everybody from the Titans, he's going through and he's busting all the chains that are around all these gods. And then you see all the gods at the beginning during his blessing party, birth party that he has. But if you go and watch that again, you look around, and I know it's cartoon, whatever, but you look around and these gods are short little squatty men, or tall muscular men, or round voluptuous women, or lean, more trim women. They are all shapes and sizes. They even have different colored skin. They have different types of hair. They all embody their own gifts. And Hermes is this wiry little hippie looking, wings on his feet kind of a guy. He doesn't have big muscles like Zeus, and he's not any less awesome than Zeus. He's his own thing. And when we'll just say my higher self pointed that out to me, because I loved that show growing up, I went, oh, so a little wiry person, a short little wiry girl can be that on purpose by the gods, can be that and can have been designed like that. Whether you think we designed it or God designed it or the gods, whatever it is, whoever designed your body designed it like that on purpose. So then during that time when that was being pointed out to me, my children were watching, it's a Christian-based series. It's called Toby. And in that, he's making friends with Jesus. So it's this little boy that gets kind of bullied by his sister because he's different. He sees the world differently. And he has this little calic. And he goes into this experience with Jesus. And Jesus comes up, and he's just in a t-shirt, and he's just a chill guy. And this little boy starts working with him to make bodies of clay. They're sculpting little bodies of clay. And Toby, the little boy, is making himself. So he's helping Jesus and he's sculpting himself. And as he comes together, his little calic goes boing. And Toby goes, oh, because his sister makes fun of him for that. He smooths it down and boing back up. And Jesus says, no, Toby, I made you perfectly. And I was like, whoa, chills. That calic of mine, because guess what? I had a calic and it wouldn't go down. And it was when the bangs must be down and straight and swooped. My bangs were so hard to get down. So this was as an adult, I was watching this, but I loved that in that series, they did not say made you perfect. They said, because that's been damaged by religion, made you perfectly. Like, I put that calic there. I love that bigger butt, and I cannot lie. I love, all these different aspects of every single piece of you. That's very divine feminine. So then the other story is, as an adult, I grew up with 5'3" and less women. My only tall woman in my experience was, like, within my family, was my grandma, who was 5'8" like me. But everyone else was 5'3" or less, very petite, legit. I fit in their wedding dresses when I was 12 years old. So I'm way bigger than these women are. And I'm being taught that feminine is small, is fragile, is soft and weak. And these are good, positive aspects of feminine. And I'm thinking, okay, I must be bad. And I get comments from my uncle and stuff as he's watching me play the piano one day. I was probably 14. He goes, look at those shoulders. Those are like quarterback shoulders. And I'm like, oh, like, don't say that about me. And just, everybody has their own experiences with that. Okay, so flash forward as an adult, I was listening to it's a talk by one of the early leaders of this church that I grew up in. And he had described a vision that he had of Adam and Eve. And he had said that Eve, so he spent all this time describing Adam. And then side note, Eve was equal in size and stature to Adam in every way and glory. And what that triggered in me was like, oh, she cannot be tall. That is not beautiful. That is not feminine. That is not the Eve that I want to be. And so as I saw that and felt that go, ooh, that's right next to that. I like to say I get slapped by my guides a lot because they do this. Like, it just comes in like a whoopsh with love. And then a phrase comes in and they said, Diana, this is you. You are like this. And I went, oh, okay. And it started slowing down that reaction. And then one of my favorite animals is a Clydesdale horse. Love them. So I went they said, Diana, you are a Clydesdale. And I went, wait, what? I'm a Clydesdale? Yes, Diana, your body is built big and it's built strong and it's built powerful. Again, not shaming all this other stuff, that they have their own purposes. So we're going into the gods of Hercules. You are built this way. You are built for heavy labor. And I was like, oh, I like that. It spoke to that piece of my soul that said, I like being strong. That's why I liked the muscle so much. So there was an aspect of myself that was being true to itself, but in a negative, harmful way. So I like being strong. I like being powerful. And that spoke to that piece of me. So as we're taking all these different pieces of feminine and female, they all have a place. They all have beauty. and they all need love.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I love how we bring in all those aspects of the feminine energy, but also that masculine energy that we each possess. And that brings us back to the nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon aspects of who we are, as well as all of the components of nature that bring this beautiful rainbow. And stepping into your strengths, your beauties individually is such a powerful part of this divine feminine integration. For both of us, I feel like we've come to a space that we're starting to recognize the whole picture, everything being beautiful, everything having these important pieces that make it's kind of like a quilt, is the way that I see it. Is every piece of the quilt is perfect and beautiful and wonderful, and that's what makes humanity this large, amazing quilt. Just like nature, we have the lion, the lioness, we have the hummingbird, we have these beautiful trees. Like, if you think about having only one flower on the planet, as opposed to how many other varieties, it makes us all this, it makes us this entire composition of wonder and beauty. When you think about classical music and how all of those instruments come together to play in rhythm and harmony, this is what we are as humans, and being able to really embrace what is beautiful about each one of us individually, instead of trying to fit into these societal expectations. So I would like to actually share an experience with the audience that
Love.
really speaks to my heart, because this was one of the very many that I've had to go through in order to see my own true beauty. And earlier we were talking about our bodies and how much shame we've carried. And even as beautiful as we looked, there was always something that we were criticizing about our bodies, because it just never was enough, right? You had spoken about the six pack. I had been so, self-conscious about my butt and just all these parts that we finally have gone through these experiences that have taught us to truly love and embrace ourselves. And I was in Hawaii a couple years ago, and this is fresh for me. It's something that I've experienced throughout my life, is trying to peel these layers back of shame. And there is no way I would have ever thought or in any way bought a bikini, because first of all, bikinis in the place that I was raised was completely abhorrent. I remember growing up in my teen years, and that was against any of our rules, any of our religious structures. And I remember hearing about one of the teens in my church that had been caught wearing a bikini, and how much shame and the gossip that went around. And to me, hearing that, like, I had this outward spoken shame of this girl that had been wearing a bikini, and all of the loops that would go around in my head about my body. And so, not to mention being self-conscious, like, that was just completely against any of my belief systems. And it was really interesting when I was in Hawaii. It was the first time that I was like, oh wow, I walked on the beach and I saw people of all kinds of shapes and sizes, and it was amazing. Like, at first you think you would go and you would be super triggered, which probably 5 years prior to that, I would have been super triggered. But when I walked on that beach, I saw all of these people completely comfortable in their bodies, and the culture was completely accepting of that. It was probably hugely one of the most hugely transformative experiences, at least with my carried body shame. And so I was there with a friend at the time, and so we're like, oh, let's just go and we'll go shopping for swimsuits. And it was the first time that I had tried on a bikini. And so all those stories in my head were going off, all the bad girl, you shouldn't be doing this. But there was actually something when I realized that I had to claim my autonomy over my body. And I tried on a couple bikinis and I thought, okay, so, super self-conscious, looking at myself in the mirror going, oh, self-conscious about this part of my body, this part of my body, this part of my body. But I decided, okay, I'm going to buy the bikini. I'm going to take it back with me to the hotel. It's there. And then I would be out on the beach again and notice all these people just completely running around, having the greatest time, enjoying the sun. And so it was interesting. I was like, okay, I'm going to wear my bikini, put it on. And I was alone. My friend had been down on the beach doing something. And I came up to my room to grab something and I had looked into the mirror. And of course, prior to that, I was super self-conscious. But when I had come up, it was almost like it was a huge connection into spirit. And it was the first time that I had almost had these glasses placed on my face. And I started to look at my image. And it was the first time that I did not see all of the things that I had picked apart for years. It was the first time that I had seen the beautiful curves of my body, and it was almost as if I had been given the eyes of my husband to start to notice how perfect I really was. And it was so transformative for me to fully lean in to every crevice, every curve, and to love every part of it. Even those parts of my body, it's almost as if like the stretch marks that I had, or the different parts of my breast that I had just been so critical of, or my thighs or my butt, I actually saw the shapes of those and they were absolutely beautiful and glorious as a whole. I saw myself as a whole person. And it taught me so many layers and dimensions of what self-love is, reclaiming my own body autonomy, coming back into that sovereignty, and really moving into that whole reclamation of my sovereign soul. And so peeling back body shame is such a huge part of this. And just like we were saying earlier with that ascension process, we can't forget the body. So many of us in the healing world and in this space, we're always trying to open up the third eye. We're always trying to open up that crown chakra. It can be easy to try to like disconnect from the body and float into the clouds a lot and to be in that spiritual realm. And for me, for so many years, I lived in that space because that is part of my innate gifts and passion on the planet, is being up in that spiritual energetic realm and in that heart space. But for me to really come into this full space of awareness, really embracing the divine feminine, I had to come back into that root chakra. I had to come back into the sacral chakra, into the solar plexus, and come back and show up for my body, show up for all of those parts, all those inner children, the inner teen, the parts of my adult that had been so entrenched in body shame, and finally be given this gift to see me through the eyes of really the divine, as well as the eyes of so many others that would look at me and see my beauty. And I finally saw it for myself.
I love that story. And what I kept thinking was how you described that inner child, coming back to your inner child, is kind of coming down into those root chakras, those lower chakras. let's see, what was the thought process I was going with? Um, do you feel that when you did that, you regained curiosity and excitement for life?
100%. So as you're talking about this, as I was thinking about that part of my inner child, I remember I had the cutest, I don't remember what they were, like these little sun tops that we had with when we were little girls, and it probably showed a little bit of our belly button. And I don't know how in the world, like my mom let me wear that, but she did. And I suspect I was super young, but it really just brought back that part of my childlike purity as well, because there's been so much shame in the body, and showing your belly button, showing your shoulders, showing these corners of ourselves, that just brought me back into my body. It brought me back into the beauty of having a body. Like it's a body, right?
And that, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's what it is. It's just like leaning into just embracing the beauty of our creation, right? Coming back into those layers of how beautiful a rose is, or a daisy, or a lioness, or a willow tree, and coming back to that part of your body, noticing all the curves, and going, just like you were saying about the calic, right? Coming
Yes.
back into that, when you think about, my husband and I were talking about this. We have the cutest little grandbabies, and it's so funny. Like when babies have like these rolls and these cute little dimples, we're always so, oh my goodness, you're so adorable. You're so cute. And we just can't help ourselves. But then somehow, as we get older, we start to get into this fat shaming societal world. And we're thinking, my husband said that. He's like, don't you think it's just kind of weird that we totally like have these two different realities? And I'm like, I get that, right? And when we finally come into this space of like looking at our bodies and really just leaning in, we start to just find the beauty of every little curve, right? Even the little divots in your skin that go, wow, thank you for showing up and being here, and giving me structure and beauty.
Yes. There's so many times over the years as I become more and more aware of this. And again, everybody's at their own places, and everybody has their own trauma that they've got to work on, and their own chakras that are weaker or stronger or whatever. But I've found it interesting how gurus or different spiritually awakened people, they talk all big here, but they have lost the curiosity, they've lost the passion, they've lost the excitement, because everything has to be so serious. And that's not to say that these upper chakras are so serious by nature, but we kind of change them into being, meditative, not about excitement and those things. But once you get back in, you start addressing that inner child, and which lowers you into those spaces that were so shamed. You start to ignite this passion that's like, ooh, and I love that. Ooh, and I love that. And when you merge the passion with this like ancient wisdom type third eye gifts of being able to see deep into somebody, you realize that it is actually what brings in love for people and for experiences, and actually helps you go, huh, well, that was funny what that mean thing that person said to me. They must be having a hard day. Ha 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 ha.
Yes.
You laugh it off, and it's just no big deal. Because you move and experience life through joy. And that is really, at least from my experience, part of my mission is those lower chakras, like bringing that awareness back into our reality. But so for me, those areas are like so rich, so deep. And that's nothing against, because I love going up here too, but it's the full spectrum. Yes. And it's the inner child that I find where those are.
Oh my goodness. And when we first started like connecting with each other, and I mentioned this in our first podcast, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Are you feeling this? And
Uh,
then you remember I got this big vision of you being at one end of the doorway and me at the other. And it's almost like
yes.
kind of like we're bridging this world. We're bridging this world of this physical, the
Mhm.
emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the energetic to work
Yes.
in cohesion. It is that rainbow. It is that palette
Yes.
of all the colors, and that is what gives us dimension. And when we can
Yeah.
work in cohesion, when we can work with all of these chakras coming into alignment into our heart, but also this higher heart space,
Hmm.
that's when we light up and we connect in a very grounded,
Hmm.
connected space, being fully integrated to show up on the planet. And that comes with all of the colors of the rainbow. So
Yes.
this is so fun.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like we're both just in our light and in our passion when we're speaking speaking
Yes,
about this. So
definitely. Definitely. And as we're in that body and in those areas, again, we're looking at, okay, what areas are associated with those lower areas? And often it's the areas of the body that people are most disgusted with, most
mhm.
turned off by, most like, ooh, don't go there. Or what I hear a lot from women, mostly women, I would say, nobody wants to see that, that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Um, Even just sitting with your legs slightly opened, even in pants, whatever, you
Yes.
still hear women go, crotch shot, gross. No one wants to see that
Yeah, we were
type
always
of a
taught to
thing.
cross our legs,
Yeah,
sit
clothes.
properly. You have to keep your legs closed. And for
Yeah.
some reason, guys were taught that it's okay to just sit there with their legs wide open. And I'm thinking, is that not a cultural
Oh,
misnomer?
they're almost, it's almost not masculine. Like when I see a man sitting with his knees together, I'm like, why are his knees together? They should be
Yeah.
open. It's
Right.
just so weird.
And we've just been taught all of these cultural expectations
Yeah.
and cultural rules that
Yeah.
do bring shame, especially to that root sacral area.
Hmm. Yes. So as we're sitting, as we're learning how to love our body in different ways, another tool that I found, so I was starting to get into exotic dancing and stuff, and I think I told some of that story in the other podcast. But as I was studying and watching other professionals and stuff, I started noticing ideas like, wow, why does it look so yummy when she touches her body? When I touch my body, I don't feel anything. I just like I my hand and my body do not connect. I'm touching my mic. My hand and my body do not connect. And so I started having to um uh, and then the other note was I noticed that my husband could touch my body and it would light up. But when I touched my body, it was dead. There was nothing. I literally felt nothing. So I began to see that as a red flag of there's a wall here between me and myself. um, and so I started, let's see, there was different opportunities that I would just take. I'm pretty sure some of them I was out in my yard and I would be listening to something that would then cue me into placing my hands on different parts of my body, whatever it was, and just saying, it was like I would separate my spirit or my consciousness and my body. And I would say, you know, Spirit Diana to Body Diana would say, I love you. I am so proud of you. And then I love this part of you. And it was wild. The physical response it was like if you've ever had a child light up when the parent or the adult says, "Wow, that was so good. Did you see how you did that?" You see that child light up and they're like, "Oh, yes, and you see me, and you saw how awesome that was." They respond. My body, as my spirit's child, metaphorically speaking, lit up at the approval that my spirit and my mental consciousness gave my body at that point in time. It was super interesting to me. And that particular time, that first time, I had put my hands on my breasts because I was working through shame on my breasts and how they were, especially after having babies. They just had done their own thing, and all women can relate with that. But so I was experiencing the shame. And so I put my hands on my breasts and I said, "I love you. I love you." And it was just, I actually felt what would probably be a release, not a release of cortisol, a reduction of cortisol. There was this anxiety that I didn't know was constantly humming in my body that went, "Oh, you mean I'm safe with you, Diana? Spirit Diana? Body Diana is safe with you. Oh, okay. I see that you see me." So do you see I'm having this separate conversation with myself and approving and loving. And it's really cool that when your body starts feeling approval and love from you, your mental, it starts responding differently. Just like, we'll just say, you can go to an animal, a beast of toil, or maybe a slave or a servant. If the master is kind and loving, that servant loves being there. That servant, paid or not paid, wants to be there. And if the servant, paid or not paid, is abused, is treated negatively, it does not want to be there. And it will not perform in the ways that are wanted. There's areas of our body, and each person can go into that for themselves. There's areas of your body that you like or dislike more than others. And side note, when your daughters or sons, but we'll just go with daughters, when they see you looking in the mirror and they see you turn and look disappointed at your voluptuously round buttocks, they start doing that to themselves too. And so we have to heal ourselves before, so that we don't pass it on, because you pass it on whether you verbalize it or not. It passes
Absolutely. Yeah, and the generational lines, that is really what we're doing with integrating this divine feminine, is coming through generations of time,
Yes.
breaking these cycles, breaking these chains, so that we can come into that reclamation and coming into that sacred balance of masculine and feminine, and embracing the beauty of who we are.
So as we're looking at those things, we're going, okay, naturally, and I'm going to get a little, we'll just say graphic, the anus and the vagina are two of probably the most worldwide grossest areas, quote unquote, grossest areas. And after you've processed through your other more surface level, we'll just say areas of shame, don't forget those areas as well. Mm-hmm. And when you can start to integrate that even my dirty is beautiful, even my messy is gorgeous, even my obscene is incredibly attractive, you are turning on a power that is wild and super beautiful. I was actually able to, so in a dance class I was in, they were shaming the butt. They were totally ripping apart those crotch areas. And I had had enough of it that day. And it does cause some, like when there's a lot of that shame energy coming forth, it activates my warrior in a more dramatic way than would normally come out. But that day they were just, it was so bad. So what ended up coming out of me was, as they had said, ew, butthole gross, or something like that. I said, I have a super gorgeous, and went down that route. And it stopped everything. It stopped it all. And they looked at me like, almost, you could almost sense, man, I wish I could say that about myself. Which just proves the work that needs to be done with everybody. But I mean, that took me a long time to be able to get there. But it is a very powerful place to take the time with each part. And when you can say to your physical messy, I love you, then you can say to your emotional messy, I love you. And you can say to your mental messy, I love you. And just allow, oh, there's another piece of that. So you've got, so you are we'll just say the parent of your body. You are the caretaker. You are the steward, we'll say, of your body. And as this parent of your body, would you, as a parent of your children, ever turn to we'll just say redheaded child? Poor redheads, they get picked on a lot. But we'll just say, would you ever turn to them and say, I can't love you because your hair is red? Or I can't love you because your body looks differently than that's a reality for some people, for real, all of those things. But think about that within oneself. How heartbreaking does that feel even if that happened to you, you know how that feels, right? I didn't fit somebody's expectations, and so I received limited love. Your body feels that. When your body doesn't fit your expectations, it feels that shame. And so when you have asked your body to carry a baby and then curse your body for the stretch marks it receives from doing that, super sad. We should probably be focusing more, should is not the right word, but focusing more on the gratitude that this big thing that your body did cause some scars, but those babies are beautiful and you would never take them back. So instead, embracing those things and the hard labor, literally in that case, that your body goes through to do these things for you. Even weight. I've heard weight described in many different ways, and one of it is all the labor the things that they are holding on to, people are holding on to, can manifest in inflammation and weight gain. Whoa, that's a heavy load. And so having mercy for yourself for all the things you're carrying, having mercy for others for all the things they're carrying, and helping each other release, not with an expectation of weight loss, but just to release the burdens, can be a super positive and unifying way of going about life.
Yes, these are super important pieces. And so as we're moving forward in the podcast, teaching these different elements, it really is coming into those aspects of the divine feminine, the light and the dark, to help us confront those parts of ourselves that we have been taught to hide or feel ashamed of and reject. And it is this shadow work where we start to bring light and love to the hidden and ignored spaces and recognize them and hold them sacred. And just like, in our modern day culture, throughout societies, when we think about a woman's body, when I talk in a previous episode about the toxic aspects of patriarchy that kind of like the parts of toxic patriarchy that swept the divine feminine off the planet. Prior to this structure, women were revered for their reproduction. Women were revered for their creative processes. And as we notice the toxic structures coming, then were women seen as dirty. Even in many cultures, women, when they were on their menses, were shunned or put away and considered dirty. And so it really is part of this that we as women and this part that we're going to do by breaking those chains for so many to come is coming back into that sacred revering of the creative parts of our body that give life and the beauty of what a menstrual cycle is. And I do want to touch on that for a moment because, you know, when most girls get their period, it's like, oh gosh, it's this time of the month. And we do this as women. And as I learned to lean into my menstrual cycle, even though many parts of the month are uncomfortable, there are different layers and dimensions, but we're definitely going to be talking more about this. But when we lean into our cycle and really celebrate the beautiful gift that we have as women to move into the menstrual phase where it is such a huge energetic release. And so with the root and the sacral and the solar plexus chakra, you can really embody this power as a female with a uterus that has ovaries to use that sacred color of the blood to release and purge and let go of these generational illusions. And so powerful. And so we get to, again, pull a toxic root of shame of the body and take what has been created as an illusion, as dirty, and shine the light on it and watch that dissolve and come into such a sacred, like I feel such a reverence to come into that space of being a woman and having that great honor to have a menstrual cycle. And if you've ever watched a woman give birth or given birth yourself, it's not a clean process, right? I mean, it's beautifully clean because the blood and the fluid of the body is so wonderful, keeps that baby so protected and safe. But when a baby is born, the fluids are out, like we have all kinds of things that are going on, but it's one of the most beautiful, sacred experiences that you could ever be a part of. And so this is where we're showing up together, the both of us, really using those parts that have been so disregarded and flipping them up over out, just like the root. We're pulling it up and going, nope, these are illusions. And we get to reclaim our power back and take these parts of body shame and move them into self-empowerment and get into the deep connection with our bodies, and then move out of shame into acceptance, into that deep self-acceptance and embracing our physical forms as an entirety and embodying the divine feminine energy within.
I love that. So for me, how I integrate things is I do the work on my insides, and then I have to take off the masks. I have to live authentically on the outside as how I feel on the inside. We'll call it a strength, but it also comes with its things. And so as I was going through this and realizing, okay, my body is good. My body is beautiful. And like you, I'm ready to show my body. That's a big step. outside of just in your closet loving your body. And everybody's going to do their things differently. So no shame on whatever process you do. My process is big and out there and needed to embody it, as with your bikini story. So as I'm feeling more comfortable in my own skin, I'm looking around at swim pools also, and I'm seeing, or beaches, whatever, and I'm seeing all sizes. And I'm starting to deconstruct those same beliefs that you talked about of, man, if somebody's wearing a bikini, there's something wrong with them. There's something bad with them. There's something that, oh, they're not living up to their potential. They're causing other people to think negative things, or, sexual things that are bad, all those things. And I'm starting to realize the lie. I'm breaking down those illusions and going, that's not true. That's not true. But so I'm at the very the very beginning of that awakening, and we go to Mexico, and I decided to bring just a Walmart bikini. I didn't want to spend a ton of money. That's something that I might just not ever wear. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to just go and buy a $10 bikini, and it's going to be great. And when I got there, I put it on one of the first days and decided, like, I was so scared. I was so scared because I was also taught, if you don't do stuff in a foreign country that you wouldn't do in your own hometown, that it's part of integrity, that you don't change who you are. And although I do agree with aspects of that, even still, that was definitely a control thing. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to wear this. And I heard the phrase, if your body's not good enough now, it's never going to be, pretty much. So I decided, you know what, you're right. If it's not good enough now, it's never going to be. And I have loose skin on my stomach. I have some stretch marks. And those were my big things that I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can love these. And would other people hate me for these things? There was also that element in that. So I finally put it on and I go out there, and I felt so beautiful that day. I felt so beautiful. And I even had my husband take some pictures of me. I just loved the way I felt. So then I get home and I decide I'm going to do this on another level. And I'm going to do this. I loved how I felt in Mexico. I'm going to do this in my hometown. And that's scary. If you live where we live, it is scary. And what I had to do for a good 3 hours was wear sunglasses so that you couldn't see my tears, as I was stressed out, knowing how many people were thinking those same programmed thoughts about me now. And I was feeling that really deep. I'm bad now. I'm bad. But what it transitioned to by about noon was, I'm not bad. And I'm wearing a bikini. That must mean that lady over there who's also wearing a bikini is not bad. And again, you see that abundance, just like in our previous episode, where I can be beautiful and she can be beautiful. Well, guess what? I know that I'm not bad. I know that I am good. And so now I know that lady over there, she's good and beautiful too. And she's not a scary monster. And I can love and embrace her body in all of their forms and all of that's around me. So then my third layer was then going and doing that in front of my family. That was wild, because you then get used as an example on what not to do to your nieces and nephews. And that's scary and hard. But I had to go through that and go through the anxiety in the dressing room of shaking that off and saying, I love me and I'm proud of me, regardless of what they think. I love me and I'm proud of me. And I'm proud of these messy pieces of me. And someday, those little nieces and nephews are going to need to go through some hard things themselves. And hopefully they feel and remember their Aunt Diana went through some hard things and she used courage, and I can talk to her about that, or whatever. Hopefully you're breaking through walls, like the generational things. That's kind of
Yes.
always my hope. Like, hopefully they'll come back.
Well, and I think that that's something as we do start raising these next generations is being able to allow these children to stay in that creative, expressive state so that we don't have to do as much healing in the adult years, because that is my arena. That is what I'm helping people do all the time, is pick up all those pieces and go back and heal their inner child. And so as we are integrating that beautiful sacred feminine, divine feminine energy with the sacred divine masculine, we are able as parents, as adults, as leaders over these children, allowing them to stay in creativity, allowing them to stay in curiosity, so that there isn't that shame that then eventually shuts down in their childhood, that goes into their teen years, that goes into adulthood. When we can come into a space where we're teaching these children that it's safe to show your shoulder, like we've talked about something very extreme. So for a lot of people that are hearing bikini therapy, there's like so many red flags going up. No, 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 we can't do this. But to even show up into a space where you might be showing your shoulder, might be a part of, that tool. The tool that we shared is part of several tools that we're sharing, but it is part of a fear therapy of sorts. We shared the bikini therapy, but maybe it really is just feeling safe in wearing a tank top and showing your shoulder. And it's really interesting to me because of the area that we have grown up in, like what I had heard about bikinis growing up, and you trying to wear a bikini in your society, like that is a huge thing. But I mean, probably someone listening to this over across the United States would be going, why are you guys talking about your shoulders? But we grew up in a society where women's shoulders, women's bellies were not, it was not safe. It was not safe to show that part of your body. And growing up, boys could just wear their shirt, like belly button showing, shoulders showing. But for some reason, a female body that also has shoulders, just like a male who has shoulders and a belly button and a belly, was sexualized or was demonized as bad or wrong. And so it's a really difficult, enmeshed cultural training. But this is where we get to take that power back and truly just see the body for what it is, of being beautiful, and not demonizing or putting it into some toxic sexual format. Like we get to really just embrace and allow our shoulders to be beautiful. Yes. Allow our bellies to be beautiful, and not in a sexual way. It's our body, and embracing the body. And so that's what I'm hoping, is that we can start to shift this programming with children and teenagers to really come into an honoring and a love for the body, so that we can shift some of these dynamics that are so rooted in shame, that are so rooted in this toxic body shame that we're talking about today.
My aunt gave me a really cool phrase a number of years ago that said, and honestly, it helped me open up so much to new ideas. She said, if it draws me closer to love, then that's a door I want to open. And although I've taken that way farther than I think she expected me to take it, it has been a guiding kind of, that's my arrow. That's what my arrow says. And so whenever I'm looking at things, if they cause me in any way, shape, and form to think less of myself or other people, that's a red flag of like, I don't know if that's an area I want to go. If it causes me to love myself and other people more, or nature, anything, myself and others more, that's a thumbs up for me. That's how I've chosen to look at things. And so if I'm starting to hear, whether it be at church or at school or just in conversations, things that cause me to want to shrink and hide, like my shoulders or whatever, then I'm going to take that. And I'm pretty hyper aware of that stuff now because of what I've gone through. So I hear little things and I'm like, nope, nope, even down to the phrase that I don't actually think there's anything wrong with, but there's a piece of me that says, be careful there. The phrase, like even light and love, that most people use, bring all things to light and love. Although I fully agree with that, and shining light onto the darkest places, but don't shame the dark. It's like this hyper antenna that I have that says, don't shame it. Do not do it. The dark is there for a reason. Love it. It's more of just love it. Love everything. And let the dark be dark, because you wouldn't take away the nighttime. It's so beautiful. You wouldn't change it today. So you wouldn't take a cave and make it not a cave. They're beautiful things, and we like exploring caves. So let's go explore our dark. Let's love our dark. Let's enjoy our dark. And that brings what I think the intention to love and light means, like what people are saying with that, while also acknowledging, like, if you didn't have contrast, like the shadows on my face, there would be nothing. You have to have shadow. It's beautiful and it creates form. So love it.
Yes. Wow. That's great, because that does bring us back into the universal law of polarity, and that light and dark exist in union. And I love how we're coming back into this space of using all of the parts, right? We demolish the ladder, and now we just come into this encircling of our wholeness, and loving all of the parts, the pieces that make us these whole, amazing, beautiful beings. So today we learned a lot of really amazing tools that we can use to help us through this integration process, this piecing together of all the parts, right? Taking the light and the dark of all of the areas to come back into this wholeness. And we can do that by doing something very similar to the makeup fast. We shared that story a little bit earlier, but adapt that to whatever works for you.
Yes, and always adapt.
And then with tool number 2, definitely adapt. For us, it was the bikinis. It may be something different for you, but however you incorporate, really coming up with a way that you go, okay, is this fear-based? Is this love-based? And really stepping into what it is works for you. And then that third tool was really coming into that self-love for even those parts of yourself that feel the hardest to deal with, but really coming in and just maybe even touching your body, right? Like coming into a space that maybe you don't love as much. Maybe that would be me putting my hands on my butt, right? And going, wow, let me just sit with this and go into sit with it. Thank you. That was a joke that I didn't mean to tell, but so being able to, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep serious here. Okay.
Just love it. Sit with it. Love it. Feel it. Squeeze it. Do all this stuff.
Okay, let me talk about tool number 3. Maybe I'll ask you to share tool number 3 if I can't get through it. Okay.
Okay.
And so that's tool number 1 and number 2. And then tool number 3 was super awesome. So do you want to recap tool number 3?
Yeah, tool number 3, just going through and starting with whatever area of your body you are needing first, like whatever comes to mind first. It could be your cheeks, your shoulders, it could be your butt, your knees, whatever it is. Starting with those areas, placing your hands on them and giving that divine approval, your mental, your higher self approval that says, I approve of this part of my body. I love and approve of this part of my body. And then moving through and hopefully eventually getting to what you deem your least desirable, your gross, your messy, your whatever, and transmuting that energy so that you no longer feel that they are gross and that they are messy. Instead, they are glorious and they are beautiful and they bring pleasure and they do all these things that serve and are so amazing.
Yes, those are great. So those are 3 tools. And then the 4th tool that I wanted to leave you with, I'm actually going to leave a link in today's episode. And Diana and I invite you to really make this a priority to come into a meditative process when the time serves you. And this is a very powerful body scan and release process. I call Embodying the Divine Feminine a meditation to release body shame and restore self-love that can help us tune into the physical sensations of shame that are stored in the body. So I will place that in the show notes and you'll have the link. You can click on that and then just find yourself in a quiet area that you can really lean in and walk through this process. It's something that you can use over and over because shame is layered. It's going to come in different pieces, and don't feel like you have to dive in and solve the whole elephant at once. We're going to take little part at a time and use this over and over to help you on this journey of peeling back, pulling those roots of shame and coming back into that reclamation. And Diana, again, thank you for joining me. I feel like we have shared so much wonderful wisdom in today's episode. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we head out today?
I think that was beautiful. I guess my only quick little thoughts were that I felt like I didn't quite wrap up was makeup is not shameful.
Oh,
But the
absolutely
makeup
not.
is not shameful. I wear lots of it
We
and
love
love
makeup.
it.
I mean,
Yes.
as little girls, I remember loving like going into my grandma's earring drawer or being curious
Yes.
about lipstick. And there's a part of that playful, fun
Yes.
curiosity that empowers us to step
Yes.
into wearing colors and expressions on our body that give us so much joy and pleasure. And so absolutely, I love that you're
Yes.
clarifying that. I think there is a part that comes that we do have to strip it away. We have to come into the raw, natural
Sure.
beauty. And then there's those other parts of us that get to have fun. We get to be playful. We get to
Yes.
move into our fierce feminine. And so it's all beautiful. It's all wonderful.
Yes.
So thank you
Yep.
for
You be
clarifying
you.
that. Yes, that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us in today's episode. And I hope that you felt inspired to look at your body with love and compassion and acceptance. Remember, your body is a sacred vessel worthy of all the honor and care you can offer it. As we continue this journey, I encourage you to reflect on the tools and practices that we shared today. Choose to love every part of yourself, even when resistance or shame may come up. You are worthy of pleasure, of joy, of deep self-love, and the divine feminine energy is always here to help you integrate that into your life. If you haven't yet listened to part 1 of this series, A Path to Sovereign Sexuality, Pulling the Roots of Fear and Shame, be sure to check that out for a deeper dive into this transformative work that we are taking you through in part 3. In part 3 of our series, we will be diving into a topic of sinking into pleasure, how to discover what truly lights you up. We are going to explore how to tap into your sexual energy, not just for intimacy, but as a powerful source of creativity and inspiration in your life. And imagine using the energy that fuels your desires to transform your life, ignite your purpose, and align you with your true creative power. So stay tuned for the next part in our series, and we're going to continue to explore how to fully align yourself with that true sovereign soul. And until then, remember you're whole, you're worthy, and you are divinely loved. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Discover Divinity podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to check out discoveringdivinity.com. You will find resources to reclaim your sacred, sovereign spirituality. Here, you can join the Discover Divinity community, where we have free online community classes, as well as done-for-you courses and programs. Navigating the unique personal path to wholeness can feel overwhelming at times. If you would like further support or are ready to take your healing empowerment to the next level, I offer one-on-one intuitive sessions in a variety of different packages where we will discover, release, create, reclaim. Discover your innate wisdom that lies within. Release the imbalances that prevent you from living your truth. Create harmony in body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, and relationships. Reclaim your sovereign soul. It is time to discover new possibilities. It is time to discover you.